Welcome back to Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition, where each and every week we're talking to marketing agencies like you, going through many of the same struggles you're going through and sharing their stories. Subscribe to find in each episode inspiration, motivation, and the perspiration that go into growing and scaling agencies like yours. Now, there are over 45,000 digital marketing agencies in the world, not counting all the solopreneurs who work as agencies but aren't maybe officially registered as such. Developing services, hiring staff, and differentiating ourselves in our sales and marketing to prospects, those are all challenges. On the same lines, it can be incredibly difficult to build and grow our networks, particularly when we're building agencies within competitive ecosystems like HubSpot or Salesforce. Now, how has the agency Aptitude 8 tackled this challenge? Well, that's what Christopher Barnett is here to talk to us about. Christopher is the Vice President of Revenue at Aptitude 8 and brings a wealth of experience and expertise to his role, driving growth and maximizing profitability for his organization. He's a passionate advocate for the HubSpot community and is a deeply committed person to giving back to his own community and making a positive impact on the world around him. As an exit founder, he has firsthand experience navigating the complexities of startups and scaling businesses, allowing him to provide invaluable insights and leadership to his team. Hey, Chris, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to chat.
So glad to have you here. And I want you to start off by just telling us more about your role at the agency and what it is that Aptitude 8 actually does.
Yes, so my role is VP of Revenue at Aptitude 8, and so I manage all of our strategic partnerships and revenue driving functions for the organization. Aptitude 8 is an elite technical consulting partner in the HubSpot ecosystem. Ultimately, we help businesses build better on HubSpot, and that is our mantra, and we are considered one of the most technical and superior HubSpot partners in the world.
That's cool. And I do know there are a ton of HubSpot agencies. I haven't been inbound. I don't know if you have in Boston. I
Yeah.
want to go this year. And I know I'm just going to be surrounded by,
Mhm.
just hundreds and thousands of agencies.
Yeah. Inbound, I highly suggest going to. It is one of the most educational and just overall best tech conferences that I've ever been to. I think I've been 5 years straight. This upcoming one will be my sixth. And you'll get to see like all those that are drinking the HubSpot Kool-Aid. It's a great community and a fantastic ecosystem.
So you've got that ecosystem, you've got this community, you're surrounded by thousands of agencies. Why is building a network such a challenge for agencies like you and your team?
Yeah, I think we are all united around the HubSpot partnership. We realize the power of the, CRM platform that can help drive and grow and scale businesses. And so, we rely heavily upon the success of that partnership. And so I believe last time I checked, there is over 6,500 active HubSpot partners currently. And so it's difficult to build a network because even though we're centered around the same thing, our goals all kind of oppose each other. And so it is quite difficult to build kind of a following or a network inside of this ecosystem without, ruffling feathers or, just building relationships that may, have some sort of friction in there. And so it's difficult to build the network, but ultimately it makes it more authentic when you actually do build one. And so when you're genuine around building relationships and, finding solutions for other partners and mentoring and, helping people that are, much smaller than you are to help build, the next generation of HubSpot partners, that's ultimately feeding into, HubSpot's slogan, which is growing better together. And that's what the mission is with what we're trying to do at Aptitude 8.
I love that. I do partnerships at Agorapulse, and so I'm completely relating to and resonating with everything you're talking about. I'm building relationships with other brand partners, but for us, it's different. For me, it's different
Mhm.
because I'm working with other brands where we have complementary services. So it's
Yeah.
frankly pretty easy for us to partner
Yeah.
up. Yeah, we're not competing, right? Where we're going to both talk to the customer, we're going to manage their social media. Maybe a partner like Pictory might actually help them create the assets that they would then push through Agorapulse to share out.
Mhm.
For you, it's different. I get that. For agencies where we have those competing interests. So how did you overcome that challenge?
Yeah. I feel like it's really focused around knowledge sharing more than anything else because the beauty to having such a large and diverse ecosystem is that a lot of different partners specialize in different things. Some partners are marketing focused, some partners are technically focused like us at Aptitude 8. Some partners want to do sales operations and revenue operations, things like that. And so what's nice about it is the common united front that brings us all together is being a HubSpot partner, which means that we can learn from one another in those skill sets that we specialize in per your industry, per your niche, whatever it is. And so the value of the network really comes in learning from those that are doing different things from you, all on HubSpot.
Right. That's right. Because for those of you who are watching, maybe you're not familiar with HubSpot. It's not just one tool. There's this package of tools and services, and you can be a complete expert. And to your point, specializing in just one aspect of the platform
Mhm.
and never touch the other aspects. You could be focused on the sales side and never be talking to the marketing tools, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's truly the all in one CRM. I mean, it's having the ability to integrate each of your platforms together to measure, track, and monitor the performance of individuals, channels, campaigns, strategies. I mean that validates a business strategy from top to bottom, and that's the real beauty of HubSpot is having a single crafted system to design your business around in order to prep for scalability.
Right, right. So how long did it take you to kind of overcome this and start to build networks and create those valuable relationships?
Yeah, good question. This has been I don't know if it's how long did it take me. I think it's a constant thing of requiring the network to be, it's a relationship, right? Your network is just a compilation of all the relationships that you have. And a relationship is not one where you build it and then you're done. A relationship is an ongoing thing that needs to be nurtured and touched. And so I would say this to get me to where I am today is probably 5 years plus, somewhere in there. Just because it as your network grows, your relationships, deepen and it becomes harder to maintain, all the relationships when you get to, 10,000 followers or whatever it is. And so, yeah, 5 years of building the network at both like a professional level where it's, one-to-one networking communications, as well as, me partnering with other companies. We have other partnerships that we are currently nurturing, and sometimes those are more than one person. Sometimes it's a whole sales team or a whole partnership team, and those are very valuable and require a lot more touch points. And so, 5 years is what it's taken to get my network to where it is now, and it's been a constant maintenance of that network in order for it to pay off and be successful.
Yeah, and you mentioned you've been going to inbound for 5 years. Is that one of the primary drivers you think of these relationships, or have there been other things that you've kind of leaned on?
I think inbound, I could attribute much of my network to those in-person conferences. But Inbound is the only conference that I go to every year. I'm not really like a conference attendee. And so Inbound is the exclusive conference that I attend in September. But I would say that the HubSpot resources in general, which Inbound would count as one of those resources, have helped propel my network to a level that I never thought it would be at. And so it's things like the HubSpot community pages where, customers can submit, ideas or requests or ask for help from people that, can help solve their problems. It's things like the, community champions ecosystem, right? So those people that are actually assisting and helping customers, connecting with those experts that are, world class in terms of solving problems using the HubSpot platform. And so there's so many different, resources that the HubSpot community provides. And luckily I can attribute, 90% of my network success to those HubSpot channels.
Fascinating, fascinating. I can't wait to dig into that. We're going to have other guests from the Hotspot community, like George Thomas, on in a few weeks. But right now, we're talking about
Right.
solving problems
Yeah.
within and for marketing agencies. And the one question I've got is how much is all this costing? We talked about inbound, right? Inbound is not cheap. So if that was the one thing that I was going to be doing this year, I'm having to put aside, I think it's probably 1,000, 1,500 bucks just for the ticket and Boston, 300, 400 bucks a night, easy
Yep.
for hotel plus airfare. What do you think your investment was total in terms of time and money? And how would you measure or describe the results that you've seen as a result?
Yeah. The total cost in terms of like dollars is probably somewhere in the range of it's 15 grand plus, just over the many times that I've been to inbound, as well as, like LinkedIn premium, if you want to count all the software and like the, other events that I've attended previously outside of conferences, somewhere north of 15 grand. As far as time input, it's likely hundreds of hours, if not 1,000 plus. As far as my return on investment from that, I exited my last company that I founded, and that paid for itself many times over. The
Mm.
value of the network and the revenue that I was able to drive for my business at that time was, I don't want to say instantaneous, but it was very quick. The relationships that I developed at Inbound and through the HubSpot community channels resulted in me hiring, some of the best experts in the HubSpot ecosystem to help propel my business to the next level. It brought me into relationships that resulted in my exit. And so those can be quantified to likely a very high dollar amount, but if anything, it gave me a career pathway, which is way more valuable than I thought it would be.
I love that. And I want to ask you if you could share an example of one of those specific relationships and the impact it had. And while you're thinking about that, because I didn't tell you I was going to ask that question, I'll share an example of my own because,
Yeah.
like you, I've also been a frequent attendee of conferences, not inbound, but I usually go to Social Media Marketing World in the spring in San Diego. And in 2016, I paid my own way, went to that conference for the very first time, and that's where I met Emmerich Ernaud, who introduced me to Agorapulse for the very first time. I had just been
Hmm.
coming off a very bad relationship with Hootsuite, and he showed me Agorapulse. I fell in love. I became an ambassador. Fast forward a couple years later, he ended up hiring me to run the entire affiliate ambassador program at Agorapulse, and that was 6 years ago. So I've been with the company for 6 years. I've known about it for eight, all because I went to that event and I had a relationship already with an attendee, Peg Fitzpatrick, who I was just following around, and she introduced me to Emmerich. There's all these things that can happen as a result of relationships, particularly events. Can you think of one in particular that's just had that kind of profound kind of an impact on you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on a couple of things. One is the value of being in person. I mean, we are now a remote workforce for the most part in the world of like marketing agencies, I would say, and just general partners in the ecosystem. Most of us are remote. And so we don't get to see the value of in person all that often, especially with, globally distributed teams. But one relationship in particular was actually at Inbound last year, Inbound 2023. I met Connor Jeffers in person for the first time, and that was what led to my eventual acquisition at the end of that same year. And so it was nice because we kind of knew each other in the ecosystem. We would cross paths. He understood the great work that we were doing. I understood the great work that Aptitude 8 was doing, and so being able to meet in person and see that like cultural alignment as two humans together made all the difference in the eventual exit of myself and my team and becoming part of the Aptitude 8 family.
Fantastic, fantastic. What else would you say maybe you've learned or some takeaways as a result of going through this process over the past few years, investing, literally investing time and resources into relationships and seeing some of the fruits of those investments?
Yeah, the main thing that I would recommend if anyone is out there trying to build a network or a following is people love authenticity. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are creating content that is, ripped from other sources or, is just not as, organic as what it could be. And so I really thrived upon like the authenticity of my relationships, as in I typically wasn't automating my LinkedIn messages or like my outreach with InMail and stuff like that. I was doing my discovery, my due diligence before I was trying to connect with the person to show that I genuinely care about building a relationship, and that yielded many fruits along the way. Because when you are actively invested in a relationship and you want to benefit the other person that you're communicating with, it results in you scratch my back, I scratch yours, sort of thing. And so it was nice just because that was the thing that I learned very early on in network building, and it had a direct impact on the way that I sell now. Because ultimately, I mean, there's a stat that I always bring up. 60% of people don't trust sales reps. There's just a negative connotation with sales reps. No one likes being sold to. It's just a kind of obvious thing. That's why people that sell cars have like such a hard time selling stuff. And so when you're authentic about what you're proposing and the value of it, it goes a much longer way, both in building a network and selling something.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now we're going to switch gears for just a second because we love talking to agencies about the actual work that they're doing with their
Mhm.
clients. And one of the obviously frequent topics for us is social media. So I'm always curious how agencies are measuring the business impact of social media for their clients, because for most, it's a super challenging thing. Everyone's got kind of a different way of doing it. How are you guys doing it today?
Yeah. So one of the things that we thrive upon just as a business as well as, our service offerings go is being able to fully attribute your revenue dollars by source. And so this is where the power of platforms like Agorapulse or HubSpot come into play with we have that original source attribution. And luckily the social media team here at Aptitude 8, the marketing team in general, led by Ryan Gunn, is second to none in the ecosystem. I mean, he does a really great job of designing the campaigns and the brand presence around the influencers that are employees at the organization. So people like me, Brian Byler, Connor Jeffers, even Ryan Gunn is one of the most followed people inside of the HubSpot ecosystem. And so the way that we measure performance is both in direct impacts on revenue as well as just general engagement that we have on many of our pieces of content, events, webinars, things like that that we host, because we are a pioneer in the HubSpot ecosystem and we want to continue to be that through the quality of our content that we're offering.
Fascinating. That's so cool. And I appreciate you giving us a shout out. What other tools are you using that we haven't talked about that are in your agency's tech stack?
Yeah, HubSpot is kind of the bread and butter of what we use. So HubSpot runs our marketing and our sales channels just overall as a business. There's a couple of other things in there like Loom. Loom is one that we use for both our internal operations and some of our external operations. But overall, the thing that I think has been one of the most impactful things that I wasn't using previously was a platform called Front. It's like an email
Hmm.
platform that allows you to manage multiple inboxes, comment on threads within emails, stuff like that. And then we use Slack. I mean, any business that's not using Slack today is not as agile as what they could be. And so those are the main tech stack that powers the team here at Aptitude 8.
Fascinating. Front. I will have to check that out. That's new to
Yeah,
me. That's new to the audience here. So that's
super
fantastic.
cool.
Christopher, this has been amazing. I appreciate all of your time. This has been such a really cool and insightful interview. Tell folks where they can go to connect with you to find out more about you and your agency.
Yeah, find us on LinkedIn, Aptitude 8, and then find me, Christopher Barnett, on LinkedIn. I post a lot of things about revenue operations, sales operations, general HubSpot, expertise. And yeah, thanks again for having me.
Fantastic. Christopher also knows all there is to know about where to eat in Houston. So if you're in Houston, look him up. That's all we've got for today, friends. Thank you so much. Don't forget to find the Social Pulse Podcast Agency Edition on Apple and drop us a review. We'd love to know what you think. Until next time.